Bewitching Prince Spoils His Wife, Genius Doctor Unscrupulous Consort Chapter 7436 to Chapter 7464. Great! Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up. Her face was pale, but her spirit was not affected. Her eyes were bright. Now there's only this old fellow left. But this old fellow is really hard to deal with. Xiaohe regained her composure after a short moment of satisfaction. Getting rid of these two fellows was indeed less troublesome, but there was still one more troublesome fellow. This person was the third elder of the Qing family. He was very experienced and would not be easily fooled. It would be extremely difficult to shake this fellow off. They had already used all the methods they could think of, and they could not think of any other methods in such a short period of time. Old fellow, it's not that I want to say this, but your Qing family is really full of trash. Bailey Hongzhuang mocked mercilessly. Which, don't be so happy too early. The third elder was furious. Once you fall into my hands, you won't have the chance to escape. Let's catch up first. Bailey Hongzhuang also didn't pay any attention to him. She ate the heavenly treasures even faster. Master, we've used up all the explosives. Xiaohe said worriedly. They had some leftover explosives from before, but under such consumption, they were completely out. They were out of ammunition and food, and there was really no other way now. It's fine. Bailey Hongzhuang did not think about it anymore. Even if we all die here today, we definitely won't let this old fellow have it easy. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a blood spirit stone, filled it with essence power, and threw it behind her. Boom, the blood spirit stone exploded in midair, and Bailey Hongzhuang was also sent flying by the impact of the energy. At the same time, the third elder was also affected by the explosion. His body had a few more wounds, and his speed slowed down. Seeing that this method was effective, Bailey Hongzhuang made up her mind and exploded the blood spirit stone again. Poochie. Bailey Hongzhuang spat out another mouthful of blood. Her internal organs were burning with pain. In fact, she was already numb to the pain. The third elder was also shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's reckless actions. Was this woman crazy? Even though he had slowed her down, if this continued, this woman would lose her life without him even needing to do anything. The third elder wasn't anxious about this. He wanted to see how long this woman could last. With the difference in strength between the two sides, the outcome was already set. Boom, Xiaohe looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, whose expression was becoming more and more unsightly. She could not help but say, Master, if this continues, you will die. If he catches you, you'll still die. Xiaohe was powerless. It understood that its master was right. What they were doing now could only buy time. Otherwise, they would be caught immediately. Even so, they could not hold on for long. At that time, the result would be the same. As Bailey Hongzhuang continued to make explosions one after another, the distance between the two sides had also increased. Boom, when Bailey Hongzhuang exploded again, her eyes were already starting to lose focus. Her body could no longer withstand such a heavy blow. Master! Xiaohe cried out in alarm. This time, it was really over. The third elder also sensed Bailey Hongzhuang's situation and a smug smile appeared on his face. She's going to play herself to death this time, isn't she? He walked forward unhurriedly. This girl had indeed exceeded his expectations. It was not easy for her to escape from his clutches for so long. No wonder she had the guts to attack the resource vault. However, this was not enough. Third elder's expression was calm. Based on his judgment, this woman should have quite a lot of cultivation resources on her. Although some of his companions had escaped, based on the Qing family's strength, none of them should have been able to escape. When the time comes, as long as he could retrieve all these cultivation resources, even if there were some problems, he would not be punished too severely. At most, he would be reprimanded a little. It was nothing. Just as third elder was getting closer and closer to Bailey Hongzhuang, suddenly, a shocking explosion rang out. Boom, due to the explosion, the third elder was also sent flying, and the flesh on his chest had exploded. Damn it! Third elder cursed as he looked at his injuries. He did not think that this girl would have the guts to set up such a trap before she died. Fortunately, although the explosion had happened very close to him, his body had been tempered so he did not fall into a coma like the other two fellows. The inner energy in his body surged and his injuries began to heal. A mere first-level cultivator could actually injure him. This in itself was a disgrace. However, when he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's aura had disappeared without him noticing, his expression changed abruptly, mental strength spread out in all directions. After confirming that Bailey Hongzhuang's aura was indeed gone, he was in disbelief. How can this be? This girl was clearly nearby. Even if there had been an explosion, it would have happened in the blink of an eye. How could she have disappeared just like that? Third Elder could not care less about his injuries as he quickly searched around the area. Male Master, why are you here? Xiaohei was pleasantly surprised to see Bewitching suddenly appear. She immediately felt relieved. I'm worried about Hongzhuang. Bewitching had already sent Bailey Hongzhuang back into the Chaos Ring. He said, leave this place to me. You should return to the Chaos Ring too. Xiaohei did not return immediately. She could not help but say, Third Elder might not be able to find us after digging this tunnel. But as long as he looks carefully, he will be able to find us. Even if they all hid in the Chaos Ring, once the ring was discovered, the situation would be even worse. I understand. Bewitching's expression was calm and serious. He's searching for us by locking onto our auras. Although the spiritual power of a fourth-rank immortal can penetrate very far, as long as we go deep enough, he won't be able to find us. As long as we dig a tunnel and leave, we can escape his pursuit. Really? Why would I lie to you? Bewitching chuckled. Let's go back and heal first. Xiren and Shangguan had been worried about the situation of Bewitching and the others. They also knew about the robbery, but there was no news after so long. It was inevitable that they would be worried. Suddenly, they saw the unconscious Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing her injuries, Shangguan couldn't help but cover her mouth as tears welled up in her eyes. What's wrong with Hongzhuang? He actually suffered such a serious injury. Xiaohei was also lying on the ground. It had helped its master to withstand a few attacks earlier, so its injuries were not serious. Bewitching, what's going on? Without waiting for Xiren to understand the situation, Bewitching had already dragged him out. Don't ask so many questions. We're in danger now. I'll leave the task of digging the tunnel to you. Digging the tunnel? Xiren realized that it was pitch black the moment he came out. He took a closer look. Weren't they underground? Keep digging deeper, then keep digging forward. In short, keep digging, don't stop. Bewitching reminded her, use all your strength. We are being chased by a level 4 mortal. We can't afford to waste any time. I'll come to you after I heal myself. After saying this, Bewitching returned to the Chaos Ring. He was also injured when he was being chased. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was the main target, so her injuries were the most serious. When he returned to the Chaos Ring, he saw Shangguan carefully treating Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries. Blood, clothes, and broken flesh had been mixed together. She felt an indescribable pain when she was dealing with all this. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had fallen into a deep coma. She didn't even react to such pain. How could this be? Shangguan couldn't help but ask. The Qing devil suddenly woke up and sent all his people to hunt us down. Our breaths have all been locked. Hearing this, Shangguan eyes were full of hatred. The Qing devil. Sooner or later, we'll kill this guy. Bewitching carefully checked Bailey Hongzhuang's condition. His handsome eyes were also full of distress. Her injuries were so serious that almost all her flesh was broken. Fortunately, he noticed that although Hongzhuang's breaths were weak, they were gradually recovering. At the same time, Shangguan also said, Bewitching, look. Hongzhuang's body is gradually recovering. Her broken flesh was wriggling little by little and gradually recovering. Hongzhuang took a lot of natural treasures before. These energies must be helping her to recover. Bewitching breathed a sigh of relief. She had taken so many natural treasures before that she couldn't take full effect in a short period of time. Now that she was seriously injured and in a deep coma, the effects of these natural treasures were all revealed. That's good. Shangguan was pleasantly surprised. You should also heal quickly. Your injuries aren't light either. Bewitching immediately sat down to recuperate. Now, he had given the task to Xiren, but the third elder was not stupid. He was afraid that it would not be long before he discovered the clues. Once they caught up, Xiren's speed would not be enough. Bewitching quickly went out after taking the healing medicine and swallowing a lot of heavenly and earthly treasures. If anyone else was here, they would know how much Bewitching and the others had wasted. Normally, it would be extremely difficult to obtain such precious cultivation resources. But now, he was stuffing them all into his mouth without a care. "Bewitching, you're out so soon?" When Xiren looked at Bewitching, who had come out in the blink of an eye, he was a little surprised. "This shovel was very convenient when I was digging the spirit-devouring mine. Now, I find it even more convenient to dig a tunnel." When Xiren sighed. Digging by hand was naturally slower, so he took out the shovel that he had used to mine. When he used it, he immediately realized that it was a great weapon. Bewitching also took out the shovel and dug in the other direction without hesitation. Seeing this, Xiren could not help but ask, "Why are you digging in that direction? If that old man comes directly along this passage, how can we dig a tunnel compared to him coming directly? Making a few forks can also waste some of his time." "That's right. You're really smart," Xiren praised. "Then I'll continue digging." The two of them dug the tunnel as fast as they could. Bewitching also dug some forks into the ground. In this way, it would be even more difficult for the other party to find them. After Third Elder had recovered from his initial bewilderment, he scanned his surroundings. No one could disappear into thin air. The reason why they had disappeared must be because they had thought of a way to leave. He was very certain of this. After looking around for a while, he finally returned to the hole that was blown up. Upon closer inspection, he realized that there was another world below. This fellow had actually dug a tunnel. Third Elder had found the location of the tunnel. No wonder he had not been able to detect the girl's aura. She had run underground. The soil had the effect of isolating mental energy. As long as it was deep enough, he would not be able to detect it. As it turned out, the previous explosion was not only to injure him. More importantly, it was to conceal the location of the tunnel. This kind of smokescreen, if one was not careful enough, they would not be able to discover it. He had actually been made a fool of by this girl once again. His chest was burning with rage. He had already been made a fool of by this girl twice today. In the next moment, he quickly dashed into the tunnel. Even if he had spent a little more time looking for the entrance, he did not believe that this girl's digging speed would be faster than his speed of chasing after her. Furthermore, that girl was already seriously injured. This digging of the tunnel was probably the work of her contracted beast. Third Elder had thought that he would be able to catch up to Bailey Hongshuang very quickly. However, when he realized that he had not sensed Bailey Hongshuang's aura even after a long time, his expression turned extremely ugly. This tunnel was too long. It was longer than he had expected. Could it be that the girl's serious injuries were all an act? Third Elder's face was filled with suspicion. If she had really suffered such serious injuries, there was no reason for her to dig so far. Most importantly, he had not sensed the girl's aura at all. "As long as I follow this tunnel, do you think I won't be able to find her?" Third Elder scoffed coldly and increased his speed to the maximum. The other party was only one man and one beast. Digging tunnels had always been inferior in comparison. However, when he realized that the tunnel had branched out, his expression turned extremely strange. Could it be that this man and beast were groundhogs? Their digging speed was actually so fast. Not only had they dug such a long tunnel, they had even branched out. Most importantly, even the branching out was so long. After encountering several branching paths, Third Elder could not help but admit that he had lost her. That girl had disappeared into the tunnel just like that. Xiren dug the tunnel with all his might. When he thought of the fact that there was a Tier 4 immortal chasing after him, he used all his strength. Hongshuang and Bewitching were both seriously injured. If they caught up with him, wouldn't that be a dead end? Thinking of this, his speed exploded. He used all of his mining abilities. Even Bewitching was stunned by this guy's mining speed. In the past, he had never discovered Xiren's talent. Now, he realized that this guy's greatest talent was actually mining. This speed was even faster than his. As Xiren dug, he felt more and more energetic. It was as if there was an inexhaustible amount of energy in his body. Suddenly, he felt as if his entire spirit had changed. Bewitching stopped digging and looked in front of him in astonishment. Xiren had dug and dug and dug. And dug until he broke through. Xiren saw the sudden change in himself. At first, he was at a loss. However, he quickly realized that he had broken through. Bewitching, I actually broke through. Xiren looked at his hands in surprise. He had always hoped to break through as soon as possible but had not succeeded. He did not expect that he would break through now. It was really an unexpected surprise. Yes, I broke through. When Xiren was pleasantly surprised. Haha, I didn't think that digging a tunnel could help me break through. Come, let's continue digging. As he spoke, he ignored the smell of his breakthrough and turned around to continue digging. However, Bewitching stopped and said, I'm not digging anymore. You're not digging anymore? When Xiren was stunned. Why? You've already broken through, why are you still digging? What does that have to do with anything? When Xiren looked confused, not understanding what Bewitching meant. That guy was tracking our aura. He's never seen your aura before, so naturally, he wouldn't be able to lock onto you. Bewitching smiled faintly, his furrowed brows loosening. Go back and take a shower and change into a clean set of clothes. I'll dig this tunnel to the surface, then you can take us out of here openly. When Xiren finally understood. Yes, I've already broken through to the elementary immortal stage. There's no need to hide anymore. I'll go right away. Bewitching held the chaos ring and dug the tunnel forward a little. He chose a branch and dug to the surface. At this moment, they were completely safe. Xianxia was surprised when she noticed Xiren's breakthrough. You've only been out for a while, how did you break through? Ying, I didn't expect that digging a tunnel could actually help you break through. You can try it next time. When Xiren's face lit up with joy. Maybe you'll break through after digging a little. There's such a cultivation method? Xianxia was a little confused. This was really beyond her knowledge. Let's not talk about this anymore. The crisis is more or less over. How's Hong Zhuang now? When Xiren recovered from his joy. Hong Zhuang was still seriously injured. Although Hong Zhuang is severely injured, her injuries are also rapidly recovering. According to this trend, she should be able to recover in a few days. Xianxia said, her 5 viscera and 6 bowels have been seriously injured. Superficial wounds heal faster, but I can't tell if it will hurt her foundation. I believe that with Hong Zhuang's ability, even if she is really injured, she will have a way to recover. Xiren nodded slightly. Even though the situation was not completely stable, it was undoubtedly much better than before. Soon, Xiren appeared on the ground and walked towards the city. I don't know where the others are. How can I find them? Xiren quickly left the area of the tunnel and looked around. Before entering the Chaos Ring, Bewitching had told him to think of a way to find the others. The Chaos Ring was in his hand, so he just had to take advantage of the fact that the others weren't paying attention and put them into the Chaos Ring. As long as he was fast enough, even a rank 4 immortal wouldn't be able to find him. His expression was serious. The joy of breaking through had long been diluted. Even if he didn't know what had happened before, he now knew how bad the situation was. Even Bewitching and Hong Zhuang were seriously injured and escaped death. One could only imagine how the others would fare. I hope everyone is safe. Xiren prayed. Qing Devil, I will settle this score with you sooner or later. He carefully sensed the fluctuations in the surroundings. With so many people chasing after him, the commotion would definitely not be small. He should be able to find them. Mo Yunjue was also seriously injured at the moment. After shaking off the other party, he hid in the tunnel. He understood that only by going underground could he avoid the pursuit of the other party. Otherwise, he would not be able to resist the pursuit of a 4th-level immortal. Mo Yunjue closed his eyes, retracted his spiritual power, and hid underground without moving. Time was of the essence, so he could only take advantage of the gap just now to dig a tunnel. The only thing he could do now was to stay still and hope that the other party would overlook it. Otherwise, once they noticed the movement underground, he would die without a doubt. Time seemed to stop. The rank 4 immortal on the ground did not expect Mo Yunjue to disappear after playing a trick. It was impossible for a person to disappear into thin air. He must have used some kind of trick. Could it be that he took advantage of the teleportation talisman just now? The man frowned. He had been locking onto Imoyunjua's aura. The other party's cultivation was far below his, so under his aura, there was no way he could use the teleportation talisman. If not for that, the kid would have had many chances to escape. There were always restrictions in the city to prevent people from causing trouble and escaping. After leaving the city, he had locked onto the other party's aura, so he did not have a chance to use the talisman. It had only been a short while. That kid was smart enough to take advantage of the gap and escape. Thinking of this possibility, the rank 4 immortal's expression turned ugly. He was a rank 4 immortal chasing after someone, but the other party had escaped. Just thinking about it made him feel embarrassed. I don't know where these guys came from. They're so fast. He was annoyed. He could catch an ordinary rank 1 immortal in an instant, but this guy was like a loach. He was extraordinarily difficult to catch. Moreover, this guy was not afraid of death. He was clearly severely injured, but he ran as if it did not affect him at all. Not only that, he felt that this was not the first time this kid was being hunted. From his experience, it seemed like he was used to being hunted. Xiran walked forward. He wanted to use his senses to sense the movement nearby to find Bai Li Yanche and the others. However, he realized that it was too simple. He could not sense any movement at all. Could it be that they took a different route? How am I supposed to find them? Xiran frowned. Didn't he just stay in the Chaos Ring for a while? What had happened to them now? Looking at the city not far away, Xiran thought for a moment and decided to go to the city to ask. This city wasn't too far away from Liuxin City. If someone were to run in this direction, someone in the city would definitely notice. However, as soon as he entered the city, he heard the discussions around him. What happened to Liuxin City's Qing clan? That third-rank immortal seemed to have been provoked and asked everywhere if he had seen a fatty in the elementary immortal realm. Previously, when I was outside the city, I noticed that there was a very shocking fluctuation coming from there. I still didn't know what was going on, but now, it seems that this might be caused by the Qing clan. From the way I see it, that fatty must have run off somewhere long ago. He's at grade 3, yet he can't even find a novice celestial, and yet he still has the cheek to ask so many questions. He's really not afraid of embarrassing himself. Xiran's eyes lit up when he heard that. A fatty at the elementary celestial stage? Isn't that Gong Jun? He was sure that this person was definitely Gong Jun. So Gong Jun has come to this city, and the other party can't find him. Xiran fell into deep thought. Gong Jun was indeed slippery. He could even shake off a grade 3 immortal. His ability to escape was indeed top-notch. According to Gong Jun's personality, since he's hiding in the crowd, he probably won't leave. Xiran thought for a moment. After all, once he left the city, he would be too obvious a target. The other party would easily find him. However, it would not be easy to hide in the city without being discovered. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Xiran's mind. He had been hanging out with Gong Jun for a while. Although Gong Jun despised him in the beginning, as time passed, the two of them became birds of a feather. Therefore, they often talked to each other. He vaguely remembered that Gong Jun had discussed with him before. The brothel had a spiritual barrier that prevented cultivators from prying into it. Otherwise, if they did, the scene would be lively and fragrant. Even a grade 3 immortal couldn't find him. Could this guy have gone to the brothel? As soon as this thought appeared, Xiran felt that his guess was very likely correct. The next moment, he asked around for the location of the brothel. Under the disdainful gaze of the other party, he walked toward the brothel. As soon as he walked into the brothel, he saw a group of orioles and swallows. Their clothes were much thinner than the women on the street. Xiran quickly lowered his head. If Yingying knew that he had come to this place, she would definitely beat him to death. I hope Gong Jun is really here. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. Xiran prayed silently. However, after entering, he realized that the brothel was not small. Where was he going to find Gong Jun? He couldn't possibly search every room, right? If that was the case, he would probably be beaten to death before he could find Gong Jun. Just as he was considering whether or not he should ask someone about it, a surprised voice was suddenly heard. Xiran. Xiran quickly looked toward the source of the voice. He saw that Xiaobai was on the ground. He quickly placed Xiaobai in his hands. He was delighted. You guys are really here. Why are you here? Xiaobai asked in surprise. Ever since Gong Jun brought it here, it didn't expect anyone to find them here. It was only worried that the Tier 3 immortal would find this place, so it came out to wander. He did not expect to see Xiran here. This was really beyond his expectations. Beichen asked me to look for you. How is Master? Xiaobai became anxious when she saw that Xiran had news about Beichen. Don't worry, Beichen and Hong Zhuang are both in the Chaos Ring. They were injured and are currently recuperating. Upon hearing this, Xiaobai heaved a sigh of relief. She felt as if a huge rock had been lifted from her shoulders. That's good, that's good. Where is Gong Jun now? Xiran asked. We can't stay here for long. We have to find the others. Beichen and Hong Zhuang were undoubtedly the strongest in their group. If even they were seriously injured, it was not hard to imagine the situation of the others. If they were late, they might lose their lives. This was not something he wanted to see. I'll take you there. Xiaobai also understood the seriousness of the situation. This time, they had really poked a hornet's nest. They had never expected that Qing Devil would wake up today. That was why they were in such a crisis. Under Xiaobai's lead, Xiran walked into a room. However, Gong Jun was not inside. Where's Gong Jun? He hid underground. He was afraid that the Tier 3 immortal would chase him to the brothel. Xiaobai walked to the bottom of the bed and lifted the brick. Then she shouted, Gong Jun, come up quickly. End of chapter. Xiaobai called out, but there was no response from below. Xiran is here. It's not a third-rank immortal. There's no danger. Come up quickly. Gong Jun quickly came out of the tunnel as soon as he said that. Xiaobai rolled his eyes. Did you think I sold you out when I said the first thing? Gong Jun paused. What nonsense are you talking about? How could I be that kind of person? Haha. Xiaobai laughed dryly. He could guarantee that Gong Jun was definitely thinking that. Xiran looked at Gong Jun in confusion. You climbed up from the tunnel. Shouldn't you be covered in mud? Why are you wet? He reached out and plucked a strand of grass from Gong Jun's hair. He said in disbelief, this is water grass? Who would have thought that there would be a well next to me? I dug and dug and dug and dug and dug and dug, and then I took a bath. Xiran, Gong Jun shook his body. After drying his clothes, he asked in confusion, how did you appear? Didn't boss say that? You don't have to worry about how I appeared. Besides, I've already broken through to the elementary immortal stage. My cultivation is the same as yours. You don't have to worry. Xiran was a little proud. Gong Jun had been showing off in front of him for a long time because he had broken through to the elementary immortal stage. Now, the two of them were finally at the same level. Gong Jun raised his eyebrows. That's true. I'm not far from the first rank. It's about time for you to break through to the elementary immortal stage. Xiran, we can't stay here any longer. We have to hurry and find Xianxia and the others. Beichen and Hong Zhuang have been severely injured. I think they're in a very dangerous situation. I'll take you out of the city first. You can come out when it's safe. We have to think of a way to find the others. Xiran's expression was serious. In fact, he was a little surprised when he saw Gong Jun, Beichen and the others were severely injured, but Gong Jun was unscathed. This fatty's ability to escape was unparalleled. Did you see that third-rank immortal when you came? I saw him. He's looking for you all over the city like a madman. You must have angered him this time, right? When Xiran shuddered when he recalled how the third-rank immortal had frantically searched for Gong Jun. It was as if he had eaten gunpowder. He really could not imagine what Gong Jun had done to anger him to such an extent. Hee, it's as I expected. Gong Jun smiled sheepishly. Since you've already seen him, you should know that we can't leave at all. If we hadn't been hiding in this brothel, I'm afraid we would have been caught by now. Xiran blinked proudly. Leave the rest to me. If I say I can take you away, then I can take you away. In the next instant, Gong Jun and Xiao Bai had already entered the chaos ring, and he swaggered out of the brothel. He looked casual, but his footsteps weren't slow at all. They were in a race against time, and there was no time to waste here. Xianxia, you guys have to hang in there. I'll go find you immediately. Xiren prayed in his heart. He casually bought some snacks from a nearby shop, and asked about what had happened nearby. Everyone in the city was curious about what had happened in the Qing residence. Thus, Xiren only had to ask a few questions, and the others all told him what they knew. Previously, there was a big commotion over there. Someone happened to be nearby. It is said that the Qing family's team is chasing after two young people. It's quite interesting. The Qing family is suddenly chasing after so many people. Moreover, these young people have just broken through to the elementary immortal stage. I really can't figure out why they are being chased like this. This is not the strangest problem. The strangest problem is that the distance between the two cities is not short. Isn't it interesting that the Qing family has to spend so much time chasing after a few guys in the elementary immortal stage? As soon as these words were said, everyone chuckled. If the ones who escaped were above the third stage, it would not be strange for them to be chased for so long. However, they were only in the elementary immortal stage. This showed that the Qing family's strength was too weak. The Qing family has lost its former glory. Qing Ling hasn't shown up for so many years. Qing Devil has also disappeared for a long time. Even if they are back now, their strength has not improved at all. Instead, it has declined. That's because the forces in Liuxin City are useless. Otherwise, they would have taken advantage of this time to get rid of the Qing family. With such strength, what right does the Qing family have to occupy a corner of the Qingping continent? After hearing that everyone was sure that there was a commotion from the south, Xiren had a rough idea in his heart. The people who were being chased were definitely their people. It was either Xianxia or Yunju. Moreover, it was said that they were seriously injured. He had to hurry over as soon as possible. However, after hearing that the Qing family was despised by everyone, his mood was slightly better. He knew that with Qing Devil's character, he would not have a good life in the immortal realm. He really hoped that one of the forces would be powerful enough to get rid of the Qing family directly. Then, they would not have so much trouble. As soon as Gong Jun opened his eyes, he found that he had appeared in another place. A strange look flashed across his eyes. Then, it revealed a strong sense of surprise. Where is this? Gong Jun, you are here. Bewitching's warm and magnetic voice rang out. Hearing this, Gong Jun could not help but be startled. Only then did he notice Bewitching. He could not help but ask, "Boss, where am I?" "A small world in the ring." Bewitching explained. "It can't be?" Gong Jun looked around in disbelief. "I always thought that Xiren didn't have much ability, but this guy actually has such a strong ring? This place can hold living things." Everyone was undoubtedly very familiar with the storage ring, but the storage ring could only store inanimate objects, while the storage ring could store people. That was completely different. There was no comparison between the two. This ring doesn't belong to Xiren. It belongs to Hong Zhuang. Bewitching smiled faintly. "It can't be? Then how did he bring me in?" "Even if someone were to bring me in, it should be you, boss." Before we robbed the resource vault, Hong Zhuang had already thought of the possibility of encountering such danger, so she left behind a few strands of her spiritual power for us. When the time comes, if there is any danger, or if she falls into a coma, the rest of us will be able to open the chaos ring. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was still unconscious, and a trace of worry appeared in his eyes. He saw that the injuries on Hongzhuang's body were recovering bit by bit, but the injuries this time were too severe. With the help of a fourth-rank immortal, it was even more difficult for her to recover from her injuries. He did not know when she would wake up. Gong Jun only then noticed the unconscious Bailey Hongzhuang, and his expression suddenly changed. End of chapter. Who did this? That's too much of a beast. Just one look was enough to tell how serious her injuries were. Her aura was already extremely weak, and if one didn't sense it carefully, they wouldn't be able to sense it. "I still have some pills here." Gong Jun took out some pills. "They have good healing effects." Let sister-in-law take them? Bewitching waved his hand slightly. Hong Zhuang took a lot of heavenly treasures before she fainted. Now that the medicinal effects are taking effect in her body, I'm worried that she might not be able to digest too much energy now that her body has been destroyed. Hearing this, Gong Jun also understood. Then we have to keep an eye on sister-in-law's condition. When the energy is almost depleted, we'll replenish it according to the situation. Heavenly treasures were undoubtedly very beneficial to cultivators, but in a situation where the body was destroyed, the endless energy could cause a collision because there was no spiritual power to control it. Boss, how are you? Gong Jun looked at Bewitching again. I'm injured, but not fundamentally, Bewitching said. That's good. Gong Jun heaved a sigh of relief. I hope Xiren can find the others quickly. The situation this time is really too dangerous. Bewitching noticed that Gong Jun and Xiaobai were safe and sound. He couldn't help but laugh. The two of you are quite lucky. I didn't expect Xiren to find you so quickly. Hee, I've been hanging out with Xiren for so long. We probably have telepathy. Xiaobai couldn't help but roll her eyes when she heard this. You really have the nerve to say that. How many people are still outside now? Shang Guanying walked over and asked. It's a pity that I haven't broken through yet. It won't be easy for Xiren to find everyone by himself. She was actually about to die from anxiety, but there was nothing she could do to help. Yan Che, Linger, and Yin Ju. Bewitching's eyes darkened slightly. His eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, were filled with worry. Qing Devil's sudden awakening has affected the whole plan. What about Zhong Limu and Yi Sun? Gong Jun asked. Previously, I was worried about Yi Sun's trustworthiness, so I didn't involve Yi Sun in this plan. Zhongli has always been with Yi Sun, and they should be heading to the rendezvous point now. When Gong Jun heard this, his expression improved a little. Everyone was suspicious of Yi Sun because of what he had said earlier. This proved that everyone trusted him more. That guy's surname was Yi. The fourth prince really didn't put him in his eyes as usual, being suddenly seen through this time probably had something to do with Yi Sun, right? Wanting to borrow the hands of the Qing clan to deal with them, what a good plan. However, wasn't he looking down on him a little too much? He had already crushed that so-called bottle after he had poisoned them. How could Qing Tang and the others have found the bottle? It was obvious that someone was playing tricks on them. It looked like he had to get rid of that guy as soon as possible. Otherwise, with such a guy around, who knew what kind of trouble he would cause in the future? Since the fourth prince has already found them, but he hasn't made a move yet. Gong Jun narrowed his eyes. This guy probably wants to find the second prince first. With the eldest princess keeping him in check and with him here, the fourth prince also understood that the chances of success were lower. Furthermore, if the eldest princess targeted him, he wouldn't be in a good situation either. The fourth prince had only come up with this plan because of all these factors. However, this fellow was not much of a threat. If he didn't want to arouse his master's suspicion, he could get rid of Yi Sun secretly and create an accident. When it came to dirty tricks, no one could compare to him. Gong Jun, what's wrong with you? Shang Guanying waved her hand in front of Gong Jun's eyes. Why are you in a daze? It was only then that Gong Jun came back to his senses. I was just wondering where exactly they would go. Right now, only Xiren is looking for them. Yan Che and the other two are all outside. I'm really worried, sigh, yes. Shang Guanying sighed. You guys are really too crazy this time. When Xiren rushed out of the city. Based on the direction everyone was talking about, he had also guessed the escape route. There were a total of 3 escape routes, and this commotion was coming from one of them. However, during this process, he saw the third-rank celestial who was frantically searching for people. This guy had practically checked all the cultivators in the elementary celestial stage in the city. When Xiren shook his head inwardly, Gong Jun had simply driven this guy crazy. He quietly walked to the other side. He didn't want to run into this lunatic. Stop right there. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind him. When Xiren paused. He couldn't be that unlucky, right? I'm talking about you. Stop right there. The third-rank immortal's aura locked onto him. No matter how unwilling Xiren was, he had no choice but to stop. After all, the other party was stronger than him. Soon, the third-rank immortal arrived in front of him. Xiren raised his head. There was a hint of fear in his confusion, and he didn't know what to say. The third-rank immortal sized up Xiren. Who did you meet just now? He clearly noticed that this guy had some of the fatty's aura on him. Me? When Xiren was stunned and said with a blank expression, I've met many people along the way. Did you meet a fatty? The third-rank immortal asked. Fatty? When Xiren thought for a moment. I think I was bumped into by a fat guy. I don't know what that guy was so anxious about, but he was so flustered. The rank 3 immortal's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, where did you meet that fatty? Xiren scratched his head in embarrassment. That, brothel, a brothel. The rank 3 immortal immediately understood. No wonder he couldn't find that fatty. That fatty actually went to the brothel. He had never been interested in brothels, so he had never thought of this possibility. Now, he suddenly realized that this was the only place in the entire city where he could hide. In the next instant, the rank 3 immortal didn't have the time to say anything and directly rushed forward. Seeing this, Xiren heaved a sigh of relief. I finally tricked this guy away. Gong Jun was indeed at the brothel earlier, but he's gone now. Once the rank 3 immortal left, Xiren quickly rushed out of the city. He pushed his speed to the limit and rushed in the direction of the disturbance. Ling had already transformed into her dragon form and flew into the clouds, avoiding the immortal's pursuit. Xianxia also transformed back into his beast king form. His speed was at its peak. All the demonic beasts in the vicinity, even those that had already transformed, upon hearing the beast king's command, all contributed their strength and blocked him. When Xiren rushed to the vicinity and saw such a scene, he was immediately shocked. The Beast King and the Dragon Clan are indeed extraordinary. Even their fleeing formation is much stronger. He had originally thought that Xianxia and Ling were slightly weaker and would be in more danger now. However, it seemed that their situation was much better than he had imagined. The Beast King's first order. All kinds of demon beasts will appear. This scene is really impressive. When Xiren's face was filled with emotion. He had just noticed that 2 cultivators had directly transformed into their beast forms. Actually, since they had already cultivated to such a level, there was no need for them to attack without the Beast King's real command. However, they still tried to stop them. Even if they didn't attack the Qing family, just holding them back for a moment was enough to change the situation. One person tried to stop them, and then 10 people tried to stop them. Gradually, they were able to shake them off. It seems that Xianxia doesn't need to be too worried. He noticed that although Xianxia was being chased very nervously, he did not suffer any serious injuries. Moreover, the distance between the 2 parties was increasing. As long as he increased the distance between them, he might be able to take the opportunity to shake these guys off. When he thought of this, he quickly rushed towards the army that was blocking them. No one doubted him. He quickly sent a voice transmission, "Enter the city. I'll wait for you." Xianxia was escaping at full speed when he suddenly heard Xiren's voice. He subconsciously thought that he had misheard. This guy should be in the chaos ring. How could he be talking to him? In the blink of an eye, he noticed Xiren's figure in the crowd. It was not an illusion, but a real presence. Help me hold them off for a moment. Thank you. Xianxia shouted. When the beasts behind heard this, they immediately made up their minds. Even if they didn't recognize the Beast King, his identity represented the royal family of the demon beasts. If these humans wanted to kill the Beast King, they would definitely not allow it. Don't worry, Beast King. Seeing this, Xianxia suddenly flew up and found Ling who was rolling in the sea of clouds in the distance. Xiren has appeared. Let's go to the city. Ling's eyes lit up when she heard this. Xiren's appearance means that Hong Zhuang is safe. If something had happened to Hong Zhuang, then Xiren would not have appeared here. Those fellows behind us have been chasing us for a long time now. Now that someone is obstructing them, they won't be able to catch us in a short period of time. We'll be safe once we enter the chaos ring. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries during his escape, it was still exhausting to run for such a long time. Most importantly, it would be a pity to waste the cultivation resources that they had painstakingly snatched. Alright. When Xiren sent a voice transmission to ensure that Bai Xianxia had hurt him. Then, he quickly headed towards the city. It would be best if he could quickly put the two of them into the chaos ring as soon as he entered the city. That way, they would be safe. After all, there was still a crazed third-rank immortal in the city. He should have turned the brothels upside down by now. I hope that third-rank immortal has left. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. Xiren shook his head and sighed. When Xiren arrived near the city, he saw two figures flying down from the sky. They were Bai Xianxia and Ling who had returned to their human forms. Without another word, he immediately put them into the chaos ring. The situation this time was very dangerous. If it were an ordinary person, they would not have been able to escape from death, but he believed that Yunju could. He was also a person with great luck. No matter what kind of danger he faced, he could turn it into safety. It was really too dangerous just now. If I hadn't found other demon beasts to help me, I really wouldn't have been able to come back this time. Bai Xianxia sat down at the side with lingering fear. After running for so long, even he could not help but feel tired. If you hadn't experienced this, you probably wouldn't have known that there were so many beasts here, right? Ling chuckled. Ever since they entered the immortal realm, they had not seen any demon beasts. Now, it seemed that these demon beasts had all transformed into human forms. Normally, they would not be able to see anything. If it weren't for the aura of the Beast King that had been released when they were running, they would not have known that there were many demon beasts in the crowd. That's true. Bai Xianxia nodded slightly. All along, he had not had much contact with the demon beasts. However, when he saw that there were no demon beasts in the immortal realm, he also felt lonely. Now, it seemed that the situation was much better than he had imagined. They were still willing to help. This is beyond my expectations. Bai Xianxia chuckled. When we go to the Skyline continent, we should be able to get to know other demon beasts. Ling looked around and frowned. Where's Hong Zhuang? Hong Zhuang is seriously injured. She's currently resting in her room. I'll go see her. Ling hurriedly walked to the back room. Even Beichen said that her injuries were serious. This proved that it was definitely not simple. When Xiren heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone from the Qing family had left. He waited until they were a certain distance away before continuing to leave the city. Looking at the endless forest in front of him, his face revealed a puzzled expression. When I asked around earlier, it clearly said that there was movement here. However, on my way here, I didn't hear anything at all. He understood that it had been a long time since the incident. It could be said that they were lucky enough to find Xianxia and the others. It would be very difficult to catch up with Yunju. Even so, he had to do his best. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he could not give up. Yunju, you must turn danger into safety. When Xiren prayed silently. In fact, Beichen and the others were considered lucky to have been able to survive in the hands of a rank 4, but this kind of luck was not something that everyone could have. No. Xiren shook his head. Yunju will also have such good luck. He quickly moved forward until he saw the traces left behind by the explosion. His expression changed slightly. This should be the explosives made by Hong Zhuang. That proves that Yunju walked past here. Xiren made up his mind. After determining the route, he quickly rushed forward. The sky gradually darkened. When Xiren walked along the road but did not see Mo Yunju's figure, his heart gradually sank. It had been so long and there was still no news. He did not know whether this was good news or bad news. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps in front of him. He immediately put away the worry on his face and continued to walk forward as if nothing had happened. It was only when a group of people passed by him that he noticed that the word Qing was written on the waist tag of those people. People from the Qing family. He immediately realized who this group of people was. After taking a closer look, he realized that there was no sign of Mo Yunjue. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Damn it, that fellow actually disappeared. What should we say when we get back? Everyone sighed with some annoyance and unwillingness. Today's trip was really too depressing. Wen Xiren was overjoyed. Since Jing family did not manage to catch Yunju, it meant that Yunju was fine. Who knows if there are other people who ran away? As long as we are not the only ones who failed, then it's fine. Otherwise, we will not be able to avoid punishment. When the stage 4 immortal heard this discussion, his face became extremely ugly. All of you shut up. When these words came out, everyone shut their mouths, not daring to say anything else. Wen Xiren continued to walk in the direction these people came from. Perhaps, he might be able to find Yunju. It's really a blessing from the heavens. Everyone is safe. When Bewitching and the rest heard the news from Xiren, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Today could be considered a close call. I'm afraid that Yunju's injuries are not light. However, as long as he can escape, it's only a matter of time before he recovers. Ling Er guessed. This time, they had robbed the resource warehouse of the branch. There were quite a lot of resources. No matter how serious the injuries were, as long as they had enough cultivation resources, they would be able to recover. I hope that Xiren can find Yunju. Bai Xianxia prayed. I wonder if Qing family's people have all left. If they have left, we can also help to go out and look for them. It's best not to go out now. Who knows if there are any old foxes among these people? Who knows, they might be waiting nearby. Bewitching said. Bai Xianxia nodded slightly. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang was still unconscious. The rich energy was repairing her body. She only felt a piercing pain in her brain, as if many memory fragments were flashing past. However, these memory fragments were all blurry. Even if they were close, she could not see anything clearly. Amidst these memory fragments, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Since you have already decided, I will support you. This voice was just like the voice she had heard on the comprehension stele. It was familiar and warm. However, she had no idea when this voice had been spoken to her or who had spoken to her. Bailey Hongzhuang was still in a coma, her consciousness in a mess. Amidst the white mist, the emerald green trees exuded endless vitality. An enchanting and flawless figure in white was playing the zither. The melodious sound of the zither, like the tinkling of spring water, poured out from her fingertips. The woman's face was cold and indifferent. Her eyes were withered, without the slightest bit of emotion, but her facial features were exquisite and beautiful. Suddenly, an otherworldly figure landed in front of the woman. The man was wearing a blue robe with a wide belt with a Buddha head and a green dragon pattern on his waist. His long hair was tied up high with a jade crown, and his hair ribbon fluttered in the wind. A pair of deep and dark eyes flashed with a dazzling and wise luster. Just by standing there quietly, he was already infinitely magnificent. The moment the man appeared, the withered look in the woman's eyes quickly dissipated, turning into a sharp and disdainful look. She should have already appeared. The man spoke slowly. His gaze did not fall on the woman. Instead, he looked at the long silver river in front of him. His gaze was deep and distant, as if he was looking at a scene from many years ago. How do you know? The woman raised her eyebrows, her expression still cold. Recently, there has been a lot of activity over there. Even the demon world's first princess has begun to make frequent movements. Do you think, besides that guy, who else can make her make such a big move? The man's eyes gradually darkened, and a ripple slowly spread out from his eyes that were like a clear spring, turning into an unforgettable peerless figure. Since that fellow has appeared, she should appear as well. The woman chuckled upon hearing this. So what if she's here? Back then, she left so decisively that she didn't even leave a single message. So what? The man's eyes changed and a trace of fierceness and stubbornness appeared on his face. Even if she didn't leave a single message, I will definitely find her. There was a trace of ridicule in the woman's expression. Her heart can no longer be kept. How can you do this? The man looked at the woman in disbelief. She's your little sister. That's right, she's my little sister. So what? The woman's eyes were filled with malice. If she left, then she left. Why must you find her? That was her choice. Since she made that choice, she has no right to regret it. No. The man raised his voice. Her status is noble and no one can compare to her. You know her innate talent and strength better than anyone else. From the moment she was born, she was different from the rest. No one can be mentioned in the same breath as her. Bang, the zither in front of the woman broke into pieces. She suddenly stood up. All these years, I've been handling everything. Haven't I handled it well enough? Everything that she can do, I can do it. Why do I have to find her? She doesn't deserve to come back. The woman's expression was gloomy and cold. There was a trace of stubbornness and even more determination. From the moment she left, she was no longer my little sister. I don't have a sister like her. Seeing the woman's crazed look, the man shook his head and ignored her. The demon realm has already made their move. It's your business if you're not worried about your little sister. As for me, I'll definitely protect her. The man's misty eyes were filled with determination. From the first time he saw Ju Chen's figure, he knew that he had already fallen for her in this lifetime. Even though she had disappeared for so many years, to him, she had never left. Because she would always be in his heart and no one could take her away. You idiot. The woman sneered. So what if you treat her well? She doesn't even have you in her heart. Why don't you help me secure this position? There are so many beautiful women out there, why are you so obsessed with her? You will never understand. She is irreplaceable. The man's gaze gradually turned cold. No one can take away her position. You'd better not do anything I don't want to see. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Only after the man's figure disappeared did the woman lower her eyes. There was a faint light trembling in her eyes. In the end, we still can't escape this calamity? After when Xiren confirmed that the group from the Qing clan did not manage to find Mo Yunjue, he began to search the surroundings. In the end, there were still some traces left behind. It could be seen that when they were escaping, Mo Yunjue had exhausted all his means. However, after walking for some distance, he realized that he could not find any traces at all. The chaos ring is with me. Yunju couldn't have disappeared for no reason. When Xiren circled the surroundings suspiciously. He checked the entire area but he really could not find any traces. The group from before had also circled the area but in the end, they did not find anything. Could Yunju be underground as well? When Xiren pondered. If he wanted to prevent his mental strength from detecting, running underground was the only way. Even if he went underground, there should at least be an entrance, right? There is nothing around here. It's impossible for him to drill into the ground out of thin air. When Xiren had a puzzled look on his face. He had already looked around the area several times, but there was clearly no entrance. What kind of ability is Yunju? How could he drill into the ground silently? At the same time, Bewitching's voice came from the chaos ring. Xiren, any news? The Qing family has left. I only know that they didn't catch Yunju, but I can't find out where he is, Xiren said helplessly. Hearing this, Bewitching thought for a moment and had some guesses. Yunju may be underground. Don't worry. Just stay outside for a while. It won't be too late to take action after making sure that the Qing family has left. I understand. In the Qing family. Qing Devil sat at the head of the meeting hall. Looking at the third elder who was kneeling before him, his face was extremely gloomy. All these years, you have been in charge of the resource warehouse. I've said before that except for the resource warehouse, you have nothing to do with anything else. But this time, you let the resource warehouse be stolen. It's all my fault. Please punish me, Your Excellency. At this moment, the third elder was no longer as arrogant as when he was chasing after Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was pale, and his eyes were full of worry. Guarding the resource warehouse was a very important duty for any force. Now that the resources in the resource warehouse were gone, the punishment was unavoidable. It was his fault that he didn't catch the culprit. He really wanted to cut Bailey Hongzhuang into pieces. If it weren't for that girl, he wouldn't have made such a serious mistake. Of course you can't get away with this. Qing Devil's face was livid. You are a level 4 expert, but you can't even catch up with a level 1 expert. No wonder you can't guard the resource warehouse. Today, he had been waiting calmly. In his opinion, the luck of Bewitching's group had already been used up. If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have woken up so quickly. This place was not like the crossing immortal domain. Back then, he only brought a few people with him. Now that all the Tier 4 immortals were here, Bewitching and the others had no chance of escaping. However, he never thought that Third Elder would come back and tell him that he had failed. Third Elder's face was pale. His expression was unsightly, yet he was unable to show his face. This matter was indeed a great humiliation. I have failed to live up to Sir's trust, the Third Elder said sincerely. I am willing to resign from my position as the Resource Warehouse Elder. Sir, you can do whatever you want with me. Xianxia was also in disbelief. Bailey Hongshuang and the others have improved so much? That was a rank 4, the last time they met, Bailey Hongshuang and the others would have been wiped out if there had been a rank 4 immortal present. Third Elder, who was already in a bad mood, had a sinister look in his eyes when he heard this. Did this woman do it on purpose? When we met last time, they were in the beginning immortal realm. Now they have broken through to the level 1 realm, Qing Devil said coldly, and a sinister look flashed across his deep eyes. He had to admit that these guys had broken through very quickly. It was not difficult for them to break through to the level 1 realm from the beginning immortal realm. However, it was beyond his expectation that they could break through to the beginning immortal realm so quickly. Moreover, from the news, he could tell that not only Bailey Hongshuang and the others, but also the 2 demonic beasts and their helpers had broken through to the beginning immortal realm. How did these guys make breakthroughs? Qing Devil's eyes flashed with a strange light. It was normal for 1 or 2 people to make breakthroughs, but they made breakthroughs one after another. Could it be that all of them were so talented? Don't worry. Even if Bailey Hongshuang escapes, the others won't be able to escape. Qing Devil calmed down. Compared with Bailey Hongshuang, he wanted to deal with Bewitching more. As long as he caught all the others, he would definitely catch Bailey Hongshuang. He knew that these stupid guys valued friendship very much. As long as he caught a few of them, the others would definitely be caught one by one. At most, he would just waste more time. Hearing this, Xianxia nodded, the gloominess on her face also dissipated with the wind, and there was a hint of calmness. Once Bewitching was caught by her, Bailey Hongshuang's previous pride would disappear. She would no longer be qualified to flaunt her strength. Everything would turn into nothingness. It was getting dark. The cultivators of the Qing family came back one by one. However, they were not as high-spirited as others expected. Instead, they were all dejected and worried. They were really worried about the punishment they would face later. Especially since everyone else had made it, except for them. It would be so humiliating. However, as soon as they entered the conference hall, they saw the silent Third Elder. Before they had time to think about the situation, they heard Qing Devil's question. Where is she? They looked at each other, but no one answered. Qing Devil frowned. Looking at the silent crowd, he said, Do you want me to send someone to invite her? The Fourth Elder's mood was also very complicated. This time, he let 2 people escape, so he naturally did not dare to speak first. But why didn't the others speak first? He hoped that the others would make Qing Devil feel better after they caught her. Then he would tell them about his failure. Perhaps the punishment would be lighter. Now that no one said anything, he couldn't say anything. Master, I didn't do my job well. After one of them spoke up, the others seemed to have found an ally and admitted their mistakes of not doing things well. Xianxia didn't take it to heart at first. Bailey Hongshuang's group had several people, so it was expected that 1 or 2 of them would run away. However, when she heard that almost everyone had failed, her expression became very strange. What kind of joke was this? The entire Qing clan sent out all their cultivators, yet in the end, not a single person was captured. Could it be that this group of people had been bribed by Bailey Hongshuang before? Otherwise, this kind of thing would never have happened, not to mention Qing Devil, even the 4th level immortals present were dumbfounded. How could this be possible? They had always thought that they were the only ones who had failed. They didn't expect that everyone had failed. A bunch of trash. Qing Devil glared at the crowd coldly. She was so angry that she could topple mountains and overturn seas. Speak. How on earth did you get bribed? At the same time, a 6th level immortal had appeared beside Qing Devil. He released his coercion, and everyone present turned pale under the coercion. How could such a thief sneak into our Qing clan? You all failed. No one will believe your words. Qing Devil's voice was cold, emitting a bone-chilling coldness. If you admit it now, I can still give you a quick death. Hearing this, all the elders knelt down one after another. Master, please understand. We are loyal to you. Loyalty? Qing Devil kicked away the chair beside him, saying, the Qing family has raised so many of you, and we've always provided you with benefits. Now, so many of you went out, but you couldn't even catch a man in the elementary celestial realm. Are you really that useless? Sir, it's not like that. The fourth elder hurriedly explained. If they couldn't explain this matter clearly, their loyalty to the Qing family would be questioned, and it was expected that they would be replaced by the Qing family. I was ordered to chase a man and a woman in the elementary celestial realm, but I didn't expect that the woman was a member of the dragon tribe. She flew all the way and rode on the clouds, so it was really difficult to catch her. As for the man, he was the king of beasts in disguise. I was about to catch him, but he summoned other members of the beast tribe. Those members of the beast tribe all helped to block him, so I lost track of him. The fourth elder looked sincere and nervous, saying, today's matter is indeed my fault, but it was really unexpected. Heaven and earth can testify my loyalty to the Qing family. I hope you can forgive me this time. I've been serving the Qing family wholeheartedly all these years. Hearing this, Qing Devil's expression changed slightly. He knew that the fourth elder was chasing Linger and Bai Xianxia. As members of the beast tribe, these two guys did have the advantage in escaping, especially Bai Xianxia. As the king of beasts, it was no doubt easy for him to summon other demonic beasts. It was understandable that the fourth elder had been able to escape under such circumstances. After saying all this, the fourth elder carefully observed Qing Devil's expression. Whether he could stay in the Qing family or not depended on Qing Devil's decision. Fortunately, Qing Devil was a little moved. He said, forget about the fourth elder. What about the others? The others fell into silence. The fourth elder's reaction was pardonable. After all, once the king of beasts came out, it was really difficult for the others to stop him. As for them, there was no other reason. It was entirely because they were too weak or stupid. As expected, the Azure Demon flew into a rage. The third elder, who had been scolded badly by the Azure Demon, felt that he was rather lucky after seeing how the others were behaving. There was no harm in being punished earlier. Bai Xianxia waited until the evening of the next day. After confirming that everyone from the Qing clan had left, he let Bewitching and the others out of the primordial ring. Don't worry, I've already confirmed that there's no one else nearby. When Xiren patted his chest and guaranteed, this is a desolate place, there is basically no one who passes by here. The Qing clan has already left long ago. I have been guarding here for so long but there is no movement at all. However, the strange thing is that I have not seen Yunju appear. Gongjun looked around. This place was a desolate wilderness, and he couldn't see anything special about it. Boss, how do we find her? Dig. Bewitching pointed at his feet and looked at Xiren. Aren't you good at digging tunnels? Xiren was slightly stunned. Dig from here? Isn't it too casual? He thought that Bewitching would find Yunju's location carefully after coming out. He didn't expect that Bewitching would just find a random place for him to dig. Don't tell me you want me to turn over the whole underground area? That's not the case. Bewitching looked at the ground and pondered, since Yunju disappeared around here, then the only way is to dig into the ground. If his injury is not serious, then after so long, he should have come out. However, there has been no movement for so long, which proves that his injury is very serious. Maybe he has already fallen into a coma. His gentle voice was calm and steady, exuding a convincing power. Bewitching looked calm and indifferent as if everything was already in his hands. He looked at his feet and said, Yunju is a smart person. The reason why he was able to escape, so many people in the Qing family were not able to see through it. It is enough to see how well hidden this hole is. You have been looking for so long and still haven't found it, which means that even if we go around a few more times, we may not be able to find the entrance. Rather than that, it is better to dig underground. With the few of us digging together, we will definitely find him. Hearing this, Xiren also understood. This was indeed a stupid method, but they just had to spend a little more time and they would definitely find Yunju. Linger and I will also join. Bailey Yanche said, if Yunju is really seriously injured, then we have to find him as soon as possible, otherwise I am worried that he will be in danger. Everyone nodded and no longer hesitated. They casually found a place and started digging. However, everyone covered the hole to avoid being found out by others. Everyone's speed was not slow. This place was indeed not small, but it was also limited. Gongjun dug and found a hole not far in front of him. Obviously, this should be the passage that Yunju dug. I found it. Gongjun shouted. The others also approached the direction of Gongjun. Finally, after moving forward for a distance, they found Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue had already fallen into a coma. Although his black clothes did not have any blood, the strong smell of blood still made everyone understand that he was seriously injured. Yunju, Yunju? Bailey Yanche called out twice, but Mo Yunjue did not respond. Bewitching brought Mo Yunjue back into the chaos ring. He, who had learned medical skills from Hong Shuang, treated Mo Yunjue's wound. When they saw the hideous wound, everyone could not help but gasp. With such a serious injury, it was no wonder that Mo Yunjue would fall into a coma. It was only thanks to his powerful strength that he was able to hang on to his last breath even though he was severely injured like this. I think Yunju will need to recuperate for a while. By Li Yan and Yunju sighed, those fellows from the Qing family, in the future, I will definitely pay them back all of this. Linger nodded slightly. It won't be long before we get our revenge. Boss, is there any problem with Yunju's injury? His injury is very serious, but he only needs to rest for a while to recover. Bewitching smiled faintly, at this level of cultivation, as long as he still has a breath, he will not die. When these words came out, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Bewitching was speaking the truth. At their level, no matter how serious the injury was, as long as they still had a breath, they would be able to recover. The only difference was that the more serious the injury, the more heavenly treasures would be needed to recover. Otherwise, it would take a lot of time. Fortunately, we robbed the Qing family's resource warehouse this time. Otherwise, these cultivation resources would not be enough. Everyone rested in the chaos ring for a day. Only then did Wenziren embark on the journey to the skyline continent. The sky was clear, and the clouds were floating leisurely. Wenziren traveled alone, and there was a hint of loneliness in his expression. When one got closer, one could hear him muttering. Usually, everyone travels together. Now that I'm alone, I'm really not used to it. From here to another city, to take a flying magic weapon to the main city, and then to the skyline continent through the teleportation array. This journey is quite far. Sigh. Wenziren sighed. When we reach the main city, everyone should be able to come out. Those fellows from the Qing clan will not continue to chase after us. Chaos ring. Bewitching looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was still unconscious, and his brows were filled with concern. Hongzhuang, wake up quickly. With such serious injuries, even if she did not look so scary on the surface, she was still unconscious. He could not be at ease. Bewitching, don't worry too much. Hongzhuang's injuries are so serious. It is normal for her to be unconscious for a few days. Linger said. Bewitching retracted his gaze. This time, we caused such a big commotion in the Qing clan, and later on, everyone knew about it. I think Qing Devil must be furious. When he recovers, I am afraid he will come to find us. So what? Bailey Yanche's face was full of disdain. When his strength recovers, our strength will also increase. When we meet again in the future, it is not certain who will be the winner. This time, we are in the Qing clan's headquarters. That is why we are being chased by such a large scale. When we reach the skyline continent, Qing Devil will not be able to bring so many people with him, right? Gongjun's face was full of pride. When the time comes, we might be the ones chasing after him. Bewitching smiled faintly. I hope so. I reckon that the elders who were chasing after us are having a hard time right now. Linger chuckled. They are obviously stronger than us, but none of them can catch up with us. Qing Devil and Xiaoxia must be furious. Everyone smiled when they heard this. This was also a form of consolation. Overall, their operation this time could be considered a complete victory. We're going to the Skyline continent, but we still haven't figured out where to go. Ling Er frowned. Back then, they had just casually decided on the general direction of the sky travel continent. As for the rest, they didn't have any plans at all. We still have too little information. Bewitching also felt a little helpless. When we reach the Skyline continent, we can find out more about the situation, and then we can make a decision. That's good too, Ling Er replied. I hope Xiran can reach the main city soon. That way, we can meet up with the others. Although they had gathered together now, Zhong Limu, Yang Lingfeng and the rest were still outside. If they could meet up earlier, everyone would feel more at ease. Shang Guanying sighed. I'm going to cultivate first. At this moment, she really felt that her strength was holding them back. If she could break through to the elementary immortal stage, she could at least be of some help. Even now, she could travel with Xiran, and not do nothing like this. Ying, wait. Shang Guanying turned her head and looked at Bewitching in confusion. This is for you. Bewitching took out a fruit and handed it over. This fruit can help cultivators break through to the elementary immortal stage. With it, your breakthrough will be faster. Shang Guanying looked at the fruit in her hand and then looked at the smiling people in front of her. Her mood was even more complicated. She held the fruit tightly in her hand and said, "Thank you." Looking at Shang Guanying's back, everyone's expression was also complicated. Obviously, Ying was under a lot of pressure now. Don't worry. Bai Lianche looked at Ling Er. A little pressure is not a bad thing. Didn't Xiran break through under pressure? Although that guy excitedly said that he broke through when he was digging the tunnel, everyone knew in their hearts that it was because the pressure that had been accumulating in their hearts all this time had exploded. Pressure, many times, could be turned into motivation. When Bailey Hongzhuang woke up, the first person she saw was Bewitching. Hongzhuang, how are you? She looked at the familiar environment in front of her and immediately felt relieved. I'm fine. Seeing that she wanted to sit up, Bewitching quickly took a pillow behind her and helped her sit up. Drink some water first. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the busy man, and flowers bloomed in her eyes. Don't worry, I'm much better. How is everyone? Everyone is fine, but Yunju is still in a coma. She should wake up in 2 days. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. That's good. She fell into a coma after the last explosion and couldn't remember many things, but she vaguely remembered seeing Bewitching's face before she fell into a coma. And that glance became her last support when she was in a coma. Bewitching carefully looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. After confirming that she had recovered most of her strength, he smiled and said, I'll go and inform everyone. You were in a coma for a few days, and everyone was very worried about you. Okay. When Bewitching left, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a trace of confusion. She vaguely remembered some fragments of what she had seen when she was unconscious. She had never heard those voices before, but they were unfamiliar to her. In her memories, these clearly did not exist, but what were the things that flashed through her mind? Was this a dream? Why would he have such a strange dream? For some reason, she felt that this wasn't just a dream. Originally, he thought that after coming to the immortal realm, he would be able to understand many things that he didn't understand. Who would have thought that now? He felt more and more confused. Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. It was meaningless to think about such an unclear illusion. If he really belonged to her, then she would know sooner or later. Hongzhuang, what's wrong? As soon as Bewitching came in, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang shaking her head. Worry quickly appeared on his handsome face, and he quickly walked to her side. I'm fine. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I just woke up and felt a little confused. It's nothing. A little confused? Bewitching frowned slightly. Your previous injuries were mainly on your body. Could it be that your brain was injured as well? As he spoke, Bewitching prepared to examine her. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly said, Bewitching, don't worry. I'm a doctor myself. How could I not know? At the same time, Ling Er and the others' chuckles could be heard. No matter how calm Bewitching is usually, when it comes to Hongzhuang, his rationality and calmness instantly disappear. Of course, Hong Zhuang is his treasure. Ling Er smiled. As Bailey Hongzhuang regained consciousness, her injuries were no longer affected much. On the contrary, after this serious injury, her strength had improved a little. So many heavenly treasures had been eaten by her directly. In the end, she still managed to unleash a pretty good effect. Boss, how many treasures did you guys get this time? Gong Jun came over curiously. He had only been to the resource warehouse once before, and it was downstairs. He was really curious about the things inside. The harvest this time is indeed not small, but we also used up a lot in the process of escaping. Bewitching smiled faintly. Bai Xianxia and the others nodded. When they were escaping, they ate like crazy. After all, they were about to lose their lives, so how could they have the time to think about these things? Now that they thought about it, even they felt the pinch. What a waste. What a waste. After Yunjue wakes up, we'll split the loot. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. One look at Gong Jun's expression and she could tell what he was thinking. At that time, everyone put the cultivation resources into their own storage rings. Only when everyone gathered together could they count. Alright. No one had any objections. The harvest this time was the combined harvest of all of them. Not only them, but Zhongli and the others also contributed. If it wasn't to guard against Yi Sun, Zhongli definitely wouldn't have missed such an exciting event. When Xiran walked alone in the Qingpeng continent. Fortunately, he kept a low profile along the way and didn't have any conflicts with anyone, so it was peaceful. After reaching the main city, they directly used the teleportation array to reach the Skyline continent. Gong Jun and the others also took the opportunity to exit the Chaos Ring. Looking at the completely different scenery in front of them, everyone was completely relieved. After leaving the Qingpeng continent, they didn't need to worry about the Qing family's power for the time being. They were completely safe now. Sister-in-law, your divine weapon is really amazing. Just the flying artifacts and teleportation arrays along the way saved us a lot of money. Gong Jun smiled. Everyone glanced at Gong Jun. Sure enough, this guy only cared about money at all times. In any case, they were now people who had robbed the resource vault. Even if they weren't rich, at least they weren't considered poor. Yet, they were still calculating this. Ling Feng and the others should be nearby by now. Let's meet up with them first and then discuss where to go. Bewitching walked into the city. Luotian City, one of the main cities of the Sky Travel continent, was naturally extremely prosperous. There were also many experts here, but compared to Luoxian City, they found that there were many more elementary celestial stage cultivators here, and there was no longer the tension and oppression from before. Most of the people coming and going were elementary celestials and first stage celestials. Second stage celestials were already considered to be quite strong. As expected, the Sky Travel continent has many elementary immortals. We don't have to be as careful as before, Ling Er said. When Xiran also heaved a sigh of relief. It really wasn't easy for me to come all the way here. I didn't even dare to breathe loudly, afraid that I would accidentally offend a third stage celestial or fourth stage celestial. The Sky Travel continent is still better. The pressure isn't that great. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't say anything, it was obvious from their expressions that they were in a good mood. Let's go. Along the way, let's see if there are any signs left by Ling Feng and the others. Before they took action, everyone had already discussed everything. When they escaped, they decided on 3 routes, and the final destination was Luotian City. They had wasted some time on the way here, so Yang Lingfeng and the rest should have arrived here earlier than them. Not long after entering the city, everyone saw the mark left by Yang Lingfeng. Following the mark, they walked into a restaurant. Lingfeng should be here. Bewitching looked at the second floor and asked the waiter for information about Yang Lingfeng. Just then, someone walked down from the second floor. When he saw everyone, he was pleasantly surprised. Bewitching, you're here. Yang Lingfeng quickly walked in front of everyone and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that everyone was safe. Come, take a seat first. Everyone sat down in the main hall and Yang Lingfeng called Zhongli Mu and Yi Sun down. When Yi Sun saw that Bewitching and Gong Jun were safe and sound, a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. Then, it quickly disappeared and was replaced by a surprised smile. However, none of this escaped Gong Jun's eyes. "You're back, that's great." Zhongli quickly walked over. "After I left, I was worried that something would happen to you. Luckily, you're all back safely." When Mo Yunjue gave him the task of looking after Yi Sun, he was very depressed. It was a pity that he couldn't participate in such a big matter. "We're blessed by the heavens. How could something happen to us so easily?" Bai Li Yanche laughed. Everyone glanced at Bai Li Yanche. "Don't forget that you were chased down to the point where you didn't even care about your reputation as a beast king. You pulled every beast you saw to help you." Bai Li Yanche looked at everyone. "Why are you all looking at me? Am I not telling the truth?" Everyone looked away. What he said was true. They had gone through a lot of danger and the end result was very good. Yang Lingfeng lowered his voice and couldn't suppress the curiosity in his heart. "Did you really rob the Qing clan's resource warehouse?" "Of course it's true." Gong Jun's face was full of pride. "Either we don't do it, or we do it big." "Success?" Yang Lingfeng looked at Bewitching in disbelief. Gong Jun liked to brag, so what he said might not be the truth. "Yes." Bewitching answered, confirming Yang Lingfeng's guess. "Oh my god." Yang Lingfeng shook his head. No wonder he thought that Beichen and the others had great luck. Not to mention their luck, their courage was not something that ordinary people could compare to. Wouldn't robbing the resource vault be the same as destroying their headquarters? "What news did you find out in the Sky Travel continent these days? There are many factions here. Which faction should we go to?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Since he had come to the Sky Travel continent, he had to choose a force to join. Not only could he find a backer, but he could also increase his own cultivation speed. In the past few days, we have learned that the main powers in the Sky Travel continent are still the various academies. Every major academy would recruit cultivators every year. However, there were certain requirements to enter the academy. The age of one's bones could not exceed 100 years. If one's bone age is over 100 years old, then they can only join a sect. Zhongli explained everything he knew. In the Sky Travel continent, the academy is the place that cultivators want to go to the most. We have also noticed it in Luotian City. Academy cultivators are more arrogant in front of sect cultivators. Bone age not exceeding 100 years old. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked, "None of us have exceeded that, right?" When one reached the elementary celestial stage, one's age could no longer be determined by their appearance. However, one's bone age could be determined. A bone age of 100 was not considered young. In fact, being able to break through to the elementary celestial stage within 100 years was already proof of one's talent. It was not difficult for cultivators born in the celestial realm to reach this stage. However, cultivators from other realms who could reach this stage within 100 years were already very outstanding geniuses. As Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, everyone's gaze turned to Yang Lingfeng. Noticing everyone's gaze, Yang Lingfeng's face instantly turned red. "Why are you all looking at me? Although I'm older than all of you, I'm not even 100 years old." "Really?" Wen Ziren asked suspiciously. He had heard from the city lord that it was common for cultivators in the chaotic celestial realm to spend decades or even centuries to break through to the elementary celestial stage. Yang Lingfeng seemed to have stayed there for a long time. "It's true." Yang Lingfeng's face was serious as if he was afraid that others would not believe him. "If I'm really 100 years old, then I should have a child. How can I not have a partner?" If Yang Lingfeng's other words were not convincing, then when he said this, everyone looked at each other. His words were very convincing. After all, he was the city lord's son. If he could not find a partner after living for so many years, that would be too tragic. Seeing that everyone believed him, Yang Lingfeng's expression did not improve. Instead, it became even uglier. "These guys. Yi Sun, what about you?" Zhongli asked. "I don't have one either." "That's good. Let's find someone to ask about the situation of the academies. When the time comes, we can register," Mo Yunjue said. Zhongli smiled and said, "I've already asked. There are many academies in the Skyline continent. However, the most famous ones are Sky Star Academy and Mingyao College. The other academies are not bad either. However, Sky Star Academy and Mingyao College are publicly recognized as the strongest. Since we want to go, it's best to go to these two academies. It's said that these two academies have the most abundant cultivation resources. Their strength will increase faster than the other academies. Everyone's eyes lit up. Then it's decided. Of the two great academies, which one do you prefer? Actually, between the two academies, Star Academy is slightly stronger than Mingyao College, but the difference is not that big. I originally thought that it would be best to enter the Heavenly Star Academy. After all, if we want to enter, then we should enter the best academy. We are all geniuses after all. Yang Lingfeng's face revealed a smile, and his expression was filled with pride. However, the enrollment of the Heavenly Star Academy started a few days ago. If we go now, we might not be able to make it in time. However, we can still make it in time for the Mingyao College. In that case, let's go to Mingyao College, Bailey Hongzhuang said. Since the difference in strength between the two colleges was not very big, it did not matter if he entered Mingyao College. The academy's resources were one thing, but the cultivators themselves were even more important. Yang Lingfeng heaved a sigh of relief. Okay, then let's set off as soon as possible. We've already found the place to take the flying celestial device. It will take about half a month to get to Mingyao College from here. All right. Everyone nodded and immediately set off. If they were delayed and could not make it in time to register, then they would have to wait for another year. I just heard that Star Academy and Mingyao College aren't that far apart, and there are even people who want to register at Star Academy. It seems like they won't make it in time? Xiran walked back with some doubts. He had clearly heard the discussion between the two people in front of him. Lingfeng's information is too unreliable, he didn't even ask clearly. Seeing this, Zhong Limu and Yisun couldn't help but laugh. What's the situation? Xiran looked at the two suspiciously. Do you know something? Actually, Star Academy and Mingyao College have the same recruitment period, but because Star Academy is ranked first, the requirements are slightly higher. Ling Feng is worried that he won't be able to pass the Star Academy's exam, then he won't be able to go with us. Young Ling Feng turned his head and said, Actually, if you want to go to Star Academy, I don't have any objections. He knew that Mingyao College's requirements were quite high, but Star Academy's requirements were slightly higher. He was really worried that there would be an accident. He didn't doubt that Beichen and the rest would be able to get in, but he might not. When the time comes, I know this is my fault, I'm sorry. Yang Lingfeng said with shame. Mingyao College is Mingyao College, it's not a big deal. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Anyway, the two academies aren't that different. Along the way, all the cultivators who went to register talked about Mingyao College and Star Academy, so she was sure that these two academies were the most famous. There was only a slight difference, because when the two academies competed, Star Academy won more times, which proved that the two academies were on par. Since they promised the mayor that they would take care of Yang Lingfeng, there was no reason for them to leave him behind. Hearing this, Yang Lingfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang excitedly. Hongzhuang, you're really beautiful and kind, I knew you wouldn't have the heart to do this. Could it be that only Hongzhuang is good? When Xiran raised his eyebrows and joked, then I'll have to urge everyone to go to the Heavenly Star Academy. Nice to meet all of you. Yang Lingfeng hurriedly said, I'm really lucky to have met all of you. Haha. Bai Li Yanche laughed heartily and pulled Yang Lingfeng forward. It's just a small matter. You can just tell us directly. Why do you need to think so much? Ling'er looked at Yang Lingfeng. How old are you? As soon as he said that, everyone's eyes fell on Yang Lingfeng with a hint of playfulness. Mingyao College's requirement was to have a bone age of less than 100 years. Yang Lingfeng was sure that he did not meet that requirement at that time. The Heavenly Star Academy's requirement was slightly higher than that of Mingyao College, but it should not be too high. So this guy's bone age, my room is here. I'll go in first. Yang Lingfeng's eyes turned and pointed to his room, then quickly hid in the room. Everyone chuckled. Although this guy did not answer, but from his reaction, they could tell that he was not young, at least much older than them. Luckily we can't see his age. Otherwise, wouldn't Yang Lingfeng be our elder? Zhong Limu's expression was complicated. It was really hard to accept that this guy could be his elder. If it was the usual way of addressing him, then it would be really strange. Everyone. Let's pretend that we don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang was not in a hurry to enter the room. This flying magic tool was somewhat different from the one she had used in the Qingpeng continent. The number of rooms was slightly less, and the place for receiving guests was larger. She had noticed that there were a lot of cultivators gathered there. They did not know much about the academy, so maybe they could know a few people and get some information. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Since they had come to the Tianxing continent, it was always good to know more. Otherwise, if they went to the academy and did not know anything, they would inevitably suffer. Let's go to the front and have a look. Bailey Hongzhuang suggested. Everyone nodded. They were quite interested. Anyway, they would soon reach the academy, so they were not in a hurry to cultivate. At this moment, there were a lot of cultivators in the reception area. The appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang's group was not unexpected. Many cultivators deliberately came here to make more friends. Our Heavenly Star Academy defeated the Radiant Academy in the last competition. Junior brothers and junior sisters, I'm sure everyone knows where to register. However, this benefit cannot be monopolized by our Tianxing Academy. Therefore, the enrollment requirements are slightly higher than Mingyao College. Cultivators with a skeletal age of over 80 should register at Mingyao College. Otherwise, Mingyao College's accommodation area will be empty. A man stood in the center with a very ostentatious expression, his expression full of pride. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at him. On the clothes of the other party, the two words Tianxing were impressively written. His identity was naturally very obvious. All the cultivators present looked at the man with envy in their eyes. In the Heavenly Travel Continent, being a cultivator of the Heavenly Star Academy was a kind of honor. No matter where you went, you would be looked up to by others. Zhong Ziming, don't be too arrogant. Although the Tianxing Academy defeated us last time, it was only a competition. They did not win every time. Our Mingyao College is not weak. The principal only loosened the enrollment requirements a little to give more cultivators a chance. Don't add fuel to the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, although Heavenly Star Academy is not bad, it is not like they have never lost to our Mingyao College. The guys there have always been arrogant, which can be seen from Zhong Ziming's attitude. Our Mingyao College is full of flowers. The next time you defeat them, the opportunity is in your hands. Another man stood out. He was wearing the uniform of Mingyao College. His words were obviously in favor of Mingyao College. The cultivators present were all extremely moved. In fact, as long as they could enter the two great academies, it was already a kind of glory. It also meant that their strength would be greatly improved. However, most of the cultivators were not qualified to enter the two academies at all. Among the many academies, the requirements of the two big academies could be said to be harsh. Needless to say, Heavenly Star Academy naturally did not need to be mentioned, but Mingyao College relaxed the admission requirements, which was still difficult for many people to meet. Compared to them, the requirements of the other academies were much more relaxed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not pay much attention to this. Their eyes fell on the man who spoke from Mingyao College. Li Ruiyang? What the hell? Why did we meet him again? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' expressions became very strange. Naturally, they all remembered Li Ruiyang. When they went to Lu Xian City, they met him. Later, Hongzhuang made 2 transactions with him and earned a lot of blood spirit stones. Originally, they thought that after leaving the Qingpeng continent, they would not cross paths again. Who would have thought that they would bump into each other again on a flying artifact in the Skyline continent? If not for the fact that this guy was wearing Mingyao College's uniform, they would have thought that this guy was following them on purpose. I really didn't expect that Li Ruiyang would actually be a student of Mingyao College. This guy's family is not weak in Lu Xian City, so why would he come to the academy? Yang Lingfeng frowned. Previously, the matter between them was so big that it could be said that it was incomparably dangerous. He only felt that it was better to completely cut off all ties with Lu Xian City. Now that this guy had appeared again, who knew if he would be recognized, although, the possibility was not very high. In my opinion, you guys should enter Heavenly Star Academy. If I really can't get in, I'll go to Mingyao College. Anyway, didn't you say that the two academies are not very far from each other? Yang Lingfeng said. He was indeed selfish, but he couldn't implicate everyone because of his selfishness. Don't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her right hand slightly. Her pleasant voice was like a clear spring that swept across everyone's heart with a reassuring power. I've dealt with Li Ruiyang a few times before. This guy is actually not very smart. At that time, Ling Er and I were very careful and took pills to change our aura. I believe that Li Ruiyang won't be able to recognize us. Isn't that simple? Let's walk around in front of him and see if he can recognize us. Gong Jun raised his eyebrows. I'll try. This guy hates me so much before. If he can really recognize me, we'll have no future trouble. Back in Luoxian City, they were naturally not a match for Li Ruiyang, so they didn't have the intention to deal with him. But now, it was different. This was the Skyline continent. Although Li Ruiyang was a second-stage immortal, as long as they joined forces, it was not impossible to defeat Li Ruiyang. Then you go and try. Everyone nodded with some curiosity in their eyes. In fact, they couldn't be considered as enemies with Li Ruiyang. After all, their common enemy was the Qin clan. If this fellow couldn't recognize them, then there was no need for them to make a move. Gong Jun smiled and walked to Li Ruiyang's side. At this time, there were several other cultivators gathered around Li Ruiyang. They were all wearing Mingyao College uniforms. Senior, I've heard about Mingyao College for a long time. I want to join. What kind of assessment will there be? Li Ruiyang was already arguing with Zhong Ziming. Now that someone came to ask about joining Mingyao College, he was naturally happy. In that case, you'll soon be our new junior. You have good taste. Li Ruiyang praised before looking at the woman beside him. Kai Mingshu, introduce this junior brother to you. Okay. The woman smiled and agreed. Junior brother, let me do the introductions. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others noticed that Li Ruiyang didn't have the slightest suspicion when he saw Gong Jun. They understood that this fellow didn't even consider the possibility of meeting them again, nor did he think in that direction. Therefore, they simply walked behind Gong Jun and listened to the woman talk about Mingyao College. When Li Ruiyang saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walking over, a strange look appeared in his eyes. Then, it turned into joy. Li Ruiyang secretly decided that if they met in the academy in the future, he would take care of him. Senior sister, your skin is so good. No matter how hard one tried, flattery would never work. On the side, Gong Jun had successfully won the senior sister's favor. He had not even participated in the assessment, but he was already calling her senior sister. Zhong Limu was also secretly speechless. He had always followed his grandfather to cultivate. Ever since he left the abandoned immortal forest, he had followed Mo Yunjue. However, Mo Yunjue was also a taciturn person. If he could use his hands, he would not use his mouth. Therefore, when he saw Gong Jun treat him as one of them with just a few words, his heart was filled with shock. If he had this kind of strength, he would not have been hunted down so miserably. It seemed that he would have to learn more from Gong Jun in the future. If things could be solved with just a few words, then there would be no need to waste time. Junior brother, this assessment is mainly to test bone age. The younger the bone age, the more outstanding the talent, and the better the treatment after entering the academy. This talent is divided into 9 grades. The higher the grade, the stronger the talent. The upper 3 grades, the middle 6 grades, and the lower 9 grades. The academy's residential area is also divided into 3 areas. In fact, almost none of the cultivators who can enter our academy are of the lower 9 grades. Most of them are of the upper 3 grades and the middle 6 grades. If that's the case, why is the residential area divided into 3 areas? First grade talents have their own residences. The second and third grade talents live in one area, and the middle 6 talents live in another. Hearing this, everyone understood. No matter where they were, the treatment of geniuses was ultimately different. You guys are from the chaotic immortal realm? Kai Mingshu saw that Gong Jun and the others did not seem to know much about the academy, and guessed in her heart. Senior sister, you're really smart. We didn't say anything, but you already know where we came from. Gong Jun's face was full of admiration. His eyes were burning with worship, and Kai Mingshu couldn't help but look away. In the academy, many cultivators come from different realms. As newcomers, there are definitely many things that you do not understand. However, the 4 great continents are different from the other 9 continents. The atmosphere of the academy is much more relaxed. Coming to the Sky Travel continent is indeed a very good choice. Kai Mingshu revealed a smile. She answered Gong Jun's question without holding back. At the side, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already sat down, waiting for Gong Jun to ask all the questions they were curious about. With this guy around, there was no need to worry about this in the future. Senior, are you a second-year student? Kai Mingshu nodded slightly. We are all second-year students. When Zhong Ziming saw that Li Ruiyang had stolen the limelight, he was very unhappy. However, Li Ruiyang ignored him after taking advantage of him. He simply started to explain together with Kai Mingshu. Zhong Ziming was so angry that he left early. Senior, from your bearing, I can guess that you must be quite famous in Mingyao College, right? Gong Jun said with a face full of admiration. A trace of unnaturalness flashed across Li Ruiyang's face. Then, he said proudly, as a senior, I am somewhat famous in the academy. In the future, when you go to the academy, if you have any problems, you can look for me. My reputation is still somewhat useful. Wen Ziren narrowed his eyes. Bragging. Keep bragging. How great of a reputation could a second-stage student have in the academy? In any case, he did not believe it. Senior, are you also from other realms? Gong Jun's eyes were clear, and he played the role of a newbie incisively and vividly. The thirst for knowledge on his face made Li Ruiyang unable to bear to refuse. Kai Mingshu smiled and said, Li Ruiyang isn't from another plane. He's from Qingpengzhou. I see. Realization dawned on Gong Jun's face, and the admiration on his face deepened. So Senior Li is from the immortal region. No wonder he has such an extraordinary bearing. Li Ruiyang waved his hand. Those who can reach this stage are all geniuses. I actually admire cultivators from other planes more. You all relied on your own abilities to make your way here. Although that was what he said, no one present would believe it. One had no backing, while the other had a backing. Moreover, the backing was at least a high-ranked cultivator. These were 2 completely different concepts. Even relying on this identity, Li Ruiyang could still do well in the academy. In a short period of time, everyone had already understood enough information. Under Li Ruiyang's assurance, they only needed to follow him to the academy to register when the time came. Only then did everyone leave with gratitude. I told you, this guy doesn't have a brain. He definitely can't recognize us. After walking some distance, Gong Jun's voice, which was full of laughter, reached everyone's ears. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She thought about how Li Ruiyang and Gong Jun had patted each other's shoulders and called each other brothers. Then, she thought about how Li Ruiyang wished he could kill Gong Jun when he saw him. Her feelings were really complicated. No wonder this guy had always been suppressed by Xianxia. With this IQ, it was no wonder that there would be such an outcome. Speaking of which, it's strange. Why didn't this guy stay in Qingpengzhou? Why did he come to the academy all of a sudden? Bailey Yanche was a little puzzled. As far as he knew, people from factions usually wouldn't come to the 4 great continents because there was no need. Maybe he's not smart enough, so he came out to fill his brain? Ling Er asked. As soon as she said that, everyone's gazes fell on Ling Er with a strange look. What's wrong? Ling Er, you've also learned bad things. Usually, Ling Er did not speak much. Among them, if Mo Yunjue was the first, then Ling Er was the second. However, now that Ling Er even said such words, it could be seen that Gong Jun's influence was not ordinary. Ling Er paused and asked, Am I not good? Good. Very good. Bailey Yanche hurriedly said, You can't be any better. Ling Er was usually too quiet, so he didn't have many chances. If she was more lively and cheerful, he would have more chances, right? Although the immortal region is large, it is different from other planes. After cultivators advance, they will leave their original plane. The cultivators of the immortal region have always been here. Since most of the cultivators from the 4 great continents would eventually head to the other 9 continents, it was not strange for Li Ruiyang to appear here. It would be good for him to get to know more people. Di Beichen's magnetic voice was full of wisdom and sharpness, perfectly answering the doubts in everyone's hearts. No wonder. Wen Xiren understood. If it was a strong cultivator who had already become famous, the price to pay to make friends with him would be much higher. But here, it is much more convenient. From the looks of it, the Li family values Li Ruiyang more than Li Rui's. Gong Jun was a little incredulous. The head of the Li family is probably not very good in the head. According to Kai Mingshu, it is much more difficult for cultivators to earn cultivation resources by themselves. But after entering the academy, cultivation resources will be much more abundant. The premise is still based on one's own ability. End of chapter 74-64. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video to support the channel.